having asked for some type of U.S. government protection for my wife and children, and having been denied that.
But first, they pledge allegiance to their republic. But first, they pledge allegiance to their republic. But first, they pledge allegiance to their republic.
It's very important that people feel that their government represents them regardless of what their religious beliefs are. And I think that is really one of the key aspects and what makes America so different from so many other countries. Well, I think Rhode Island in some respects has shown a very healthy respect for separation of church and state. Every once in a while we think it falters. I think the Alquist case is a good example of that. In considering the founding of Rhode Island by Roger Williams, somebody who felt very strongly about the principle of separation of church and state, I think Rhode Island has a much greater history of recognizing why this is such an important principle. Jessica Alquist was very concerned when she first walked into her high school auditorium and saw a very large mural that was a prayer. It was labeled school prayer, and it was her understanding that wasn't proper. So she talked with a number of people first, and then she contacted us. She asked whether it was appropriate. We told her we didn't think it was constitutional under the First Amendment. We had a trial. The judge agreed with our position. The school district then had a lengthy discussion whether to appeal the decision or not. They decided not to, and that ended the case. The mural was removed. In representing Jessica, we were aware of all that was happening to her, and it really was quite frightening, and she was very courageous throughout this entire event. She did receive hate mail, threats, and again, it wasn't just threats from her fellow students. There were adults who were actually making very nasty comments to her and about her. And again, that's another byproduct of government getting involved in religion. It can lead to that sort of hostility, which simply shouldn't exist. If you have a government that's neutral on religion, that isn't trying to promote religion, then you won't see these sorts of nasty types of disputes take place. So I was certainly really proud to see how Jessica handled this. I don't think a lot of adults could have handled it the way that she did, but it is a very good example of why it's so important, why this principle is so important, so that people who see their government as representing them do in fact get represented by them. She may have started on her own and feeling very alone, but through the course of these proceedings she found hundreds, if not thousands, of people who supported what she was doing. But a lot of them were afraid to say anything for precisely the reasons we saw happen, the hate that came out of it. So I think she empowered a lot of other people to feel more comfortable coming forward and expressing their views when they see their rights being violated. And I think that's really a very important lesson for me.
However, the ones that were anxious for their children to get a good education, they didn't fear anything, because when you are anxious to achieve something, you forget about fear.